Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marcus Wilson, host of The Details of Life, where you're going to get inside knowledge and details from some of the best basketball minds in the game. Today, we have Compton Magic director Etop Udo-Ema. This guy is a legend and a juggernaut in the game. Many times people use those words and they're overused, but to put that into context, someone once told me that if a Division I coach on the West Coast is going to hire an assistant, they oftentimes go through Etop just to make sure that they're in good graces and to get his approval. That's how much influence he has and how many high-level players that he's produced, so they want to make sure that they're in good graces with him. That says a lot. So Etop has been in this game for over 20 years. We had a chance to talk about how he started off in high school and how that progressed into AAU. Also about, since he's been around so long, some of the greatest AAU teams that he's seen, how he got his sponsorship deal. One of the greatest moments that I've seen in the last few years of AAU basketball is when his Compton Magic team had a chance to face Team Takeover for the national championship. So for some of you that don't know how AAU works, you have Under Armour, Nike, Adidas. All three will have their national championship on every year, and they all claim to be the national champions. This was the first time in over 10 years that the champion from Adidas and Nike had a chance to play each other at the end of the summer. Great moment. Had a chance to talk about that. We also talked about, the differences between Adidas and Nike and his thoughts on that, how many players he's produced and gotten to the NBA. We also really dived into some things that I really like to talk about, particularly about community service. Compton Magic has turned into a very community service oriented program. He teaches the importance of giving back and volunteerism with his youth. And then we also had a chance to talk about his role in the movie At All Costs, which is on Netflix. And if you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. It talks about the journey of both AAU teams and players on their mission and their journey to be great and get to Division I level and win national championships in AAU. So a lot of great stuff here. He has a wealth of knowledge. Can't wait for you guys to get to know him better. So without further ado, let's go ahead and chime in with Compton Magic director Etop Udo-Ema. Like I just prefaced, ladies and gentlemen, today we have one of the juggernauts in the AAU game, founder of Compton Magic, Etop Udo-Ema. How you doing, Etop?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm excited for this.
Me too, man. Like whenever we get someone of your caliber and all the history you got, I know it's going to be some good stories to be told, man. So we're going to start off from the very beginning. Just kind of want to let the people know, and I want to know, how did you get started in the AAU game? And then also, how did it progress till you get your first sponsorship deal?
Wow, that's a good question. So when I got out of college, me and my college roommate, a guy named Rod Palmer, who was born and bred in Compton, he was teaching elementary school. I was kind of already doing some basketball stuff. And they offered us the Compton High job in 1993. And we took that Compton High job. And when we inherited it, just, normal kids, man, with normal social problems. And I don't know if you guys remember at the time was when it was NWA. Compton was real heavy at the time. Yeah. And Compton was challenging at the time as well. So, we didn't have good players. We had good players, but we didn't have great players at the time. We just had normal kids that checked into the high school that had normal problems. So, really it was a social platform that we were dealing with. It wasn't even a basketball team. We had all these different issues going on. So at the time, Dominguez was really good, and they were already a national power. They had Tyson Chandler, Tommy Prince, Tayshaun Prince, Kenny Bruner, Jason Thomas, all these names, and they were like top in the country. And what they would do is they would play their high school team as an AAU team in the summer called the Hood, and they would play them year-round together. And so we watched that model they used because they were such a good high school team. Well, of course, because they had chemistry. They played year-round together. So we started duplicating that model a little bit. And finally, by 96, 97, we had a pretty good team. We had about 8 Division I players in that team. We had a kid named Jeff Trepanier, played in the NBA, USC. Another kid, Tito Maddox, who played in the NBA, played at Fresno State. Then we also had Milton Riley, Washington State, Ellis Miles, Louisville, a bunch of kids who ended up going to Division I. David Hamilton, who went to Auburn. So we ended up being really good. We had a team that could play year-round. We were good enough finally to compete in the summer for AAU. So we started doing pretty well in AAU as well. And in 97, I think Reebok came in and they didn't give us an official contract or anything, but they kind of gave us a deal with their urban marketing department where we got some gear we got a little bit of funding for our events. And then fast forward to 2001, we finally signed our first Adidas deal. We've been Adidas for 19 years.
Okay, man, I remember some of those names too, man, because I came out of high school in '95. I remember Jeff Trapani. That dude could get it.
Yep. He works with me. He works with me. He works with me today. He works for us.
Awesome.
He works for. Yep.
That's awesome, man. Another question I wanted to ask you is, like you said, so you've been consistently good for years. And so I look back, I was just talking with some people the other day. We're talking about the best AAU teams of all time. And one of the names that always comes up is like the SoCal All-Stars of 2006. Yeah. And then I remember.
I saw that team up close and personal. Yep.
And then even just recently in 2000, I want to say 16 or 17, the Peach Jam Finals, you had Cal Supreme, not one of the best teams of all time, but they were a Nike team who are no longer a Nike team. So for you to be consistently one of the best teams in the country for years, how have you maintained to be one of the elites, keep your deal at such consistency for so long?
Well, it's funny because like at the time when I first started, I had a full-time job. I worked at Fort Motor Credit. I wasn't like an AAU guy or a tournament guy. I had a job. So I did my job for 60 hours a week. And then at night would go open the gym. And then in the weekends do the AAU. So like I worked full-time in corporate America. Before, like I didn't have the time because I was working my full-time job. Then when I got to work in basketball, 2008, when we had our first really good team, we actually were top 5 in the country that year. We went to the championship 2008 at the Adidas Super 64. We played Grassroots Canada in the national championship game there. We ended up losing in triple overtime to Tristan Thompson, Corey Joseph, Brady Heslop was on that team. Dwight Powell was on that team. And it's crazy because we were like the underdog and like we should have won the game in regulation. We had 2 shots to win the game in regulation and missed them. But that was our first coming out party. I mean, that was 2008. That was our first like dominant performance that year. I think we won like 3 or 4 tournaments. And in the final tournament, we made it all the way until we lost a triple overtime. Tristan Thompson made 24, 26 free throws. Like probably never hasn't done it since, but he shot 26 free throws in an AAU game.
Man,
and they won, crazy. And they won by 1.
So, that's crazy. So, man, like to even build off of that, you've had a lot of memorable experiences, I'm sure, because you've always played at a high level. We were talking about some the other day, your team you took to Vegas. I know just most recently a big experience, I think, was when you had the top team in Adidas versus the top team in Nike. Team Takeover was undefeated. You guys were really good. You guys beat them. I think that opened up a lot of eyes. And so for you, what are some of your top memorable experiences since you've been with Compton Magic?
Well, that was one of them because, like, the one thing is that game, hasn't happened since probably 2005 maybe. Like, I think when the shoe companies were kind of trying to do that back then when you had SoCal All-Stars and all those guys. A game like that hasn't happened since the league started. I want to say the EYBL started in 2012 or 13. We started our league in 2015 or 16. So there hasn't been a game like that. And remember this too. This is the one thing that makes it unique. Takeover won everything at Nike. They won regular season. They won Peach Jam. We won everything at Adidas, and we play more tournaments. So we won regular season. We won summer championships. We won Gauntlet. And that's like almost impossible to do, like to win all those different events. And let me tell you, we all, there's plenty of times we could have lost, but we ended up that year winning all those events at Adidas. So we were the undisputed Adidas champ. They were the undisputed Nike champ. And Under Armour didn't have a champ that year because Under Armour had 3 events and they had 3 different winners of those events. So they couldn't claim it. Like people were saying, well, what about the Under Armour team? I go, no, they didn't have a unified champ. Like Nike had a unified champ, Adidas had a unified champ. And then for that game to happen was, it might, like, again, as we go forward, we're going to see how good that their guys doing the NBA, our guys doing the NBA. Because right now everyone wants to go back to the guys who played really good in the NBA, and that's why they go back to their AAU team. And this is why I told Gary Charles the other night, because Gary Charles is one of the guys that helped me set the game up with Keith Stevens. And I told Gary, I said, the difference in us is this. The 9 kids I had on my team started with my team. They were homegrown since the 8th grade. They have never wore another AAU uniform.
Wow.
That's different. Kids are playing for 3-4 different AAU teams in the same year. Every kid on our team had never wore another uniform but the Magic. So, like, when we talk about AAU teams that are, from the past, like even when we talk about SoCal All-Stars, they had Brandon Jennings who played for them, right? But then his senior year played for Belmont Shore. Kevin Love started off with the Portland Legends. He finished with them. But my point is that, these were legitimate all-star teams. Ours was a team that was developed over time that stayed together. That's the difference in our team and all the other teams you're going to list as greats of all time. I guarantee you they picked up last-minute guys for those teams. We didn't do that. That's the difference.
That is so rare to hear about a group of guys stand together on an AAU team. Maybe in a high school, even with high school and college, that's rare. But for an AAU team to stick around together for 4 or 5 straight years, man, that says a lot about your culture.
Well, think about this too, though. We might have back-to-back top 5 picks off this team too.
Who was that? Who would those guys be?
Onyeka Okongwu will be probably he's got a chance to be top 5, and Evan Mobley next year.
That's true. Wow, man.
And then you got Isaiah Mobley and some other guys. We might get 4 guys off that team in the draft. We're going to get 2 for sure, and those 2 are probably going to be top 10 for sure, but could be top 5.
That's true, man. That's well. That goes to show why you won that game, man. Because that's a lot of talent. So as people are starting to debate, do they play with Under Armour? Do they play with Nike? Who's better, Adidas? So you're one of the biggest advocates for Adidas, man. Every time I've seen you, you're 3 striped up and talking about the circuit. So, man, like, what if someone was asking, why would you say Compton Magic and Adidas?
I'll just say this, man. I'm not gonna put any shade on any of the brands, because I think there's good Adidas teams, there's bad Adidas teams. There's good Nike teams, there's bad Nike teams. There's good Under Armour teams, there's bad Under Armour teams. It's really about your program and your culture. It's not about the circuit. I know that Nike does the best job in the world of promoting their circuit. But at the end of the day, I got in some kind of little Twitter beef the other night with some dudes about the circuit. That circuit hasn't affected us producing pros, McDonald's All-Americans every year. And we're in LA where Nike is tough. Kobe Bryant. Nike's everything in LA. They have offices here. It's about your culture, man. It's not about a circuit. There's going to be some really good Nike programs. Takeover's awesome. Mocan's awesome, right? Why Not came in last year and did a great job. They've only been around for 2 years, but they've been in the Peach Jam final 2 years. Everyone has their own thing and does a good job, but it's not about the circuit. Everyone wants to say that the circuit matters. You don't go to that circuit. That's not true. At the end of the day, when Adidas does their event, Nike does their event, the coaches are going to split. Half will go to Nike, half will go to Adidas. It's the same exposure for the top level kids. It's the same exposure. It's about the program and the people that you have fighting for you inside of that program.
That's 100% true. I can vouch for that because I've coached AAU, and the guys who have the college connections, who can call on your behalf and do those things, that's what really counts. So I've seen guys make horrible decisions of saying, I want to play for this circuit, whatever circuit, when another team is saying you're going to be the star here, and then you go over there and you're the 6th man. As long as you're on a circuit, like you said, the coaches are going to split up and you're going to be seen. So that's a great.
And I'll tell you this, one thing I want to say is this, and this is one thing when I talk to parents and kids that I always say, and I say, there's only a couple people in the country, because what happens is most of the guys in AAU who haven't evolved yet, they just play games, right? So you get your team, you practice, you go to tournaments and everything else, and that's only 25% of the battle. I tell my parents, it's if you watch me on social media, I'm everywhere. I'm all over the place. I'm constantly seeing my guys in college, because the most important time is when they get to college, when they're against all that competition, when they have all this social pressure, when they have all these different things going on. What kind of support can you provide once they get out of your program? The good players are going to be fine in high school no matter what. Most of us are going to have good players. They're going to be fine in high school, and they're going to commit to wherever they commit to, right? But who is really being instrumental in their life when they get to the real hard part, when they're competing against all the guys that are really good, when they're competing against the politics of the Pac-12, when they're competing against all those different things? And the separator, I think, in our culture and some other cultures is that piece. Because we can argue all day about who's better, who wins, who doesn't. We've all had our moments, right?
Right.
But the thing that I think separates us is how active my team is once our kids get to college. And that's why you see a lot of our Magic kids very successful in college. And we can go down the line. We've done a really good job in the leagues out of Pac-12. We've I don't want to say dominated. We've done very well in the Pac-12. And part of that's because of the relationships. Part of that's because of positioning, putting those kids in the right schools, making sure that we're present, all those different things that go into helping your kids excel when they get to that level, because that's when it's most important. Like, I think a lot of the AU guys think they play and that's it, and then they're posting when their guys have a good game in college. But like, I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm there.
Yeah, hey, I will say that is a separator, because not a lot of teams do that. Stick with you all the way through, man. Big props to you for that. So anybody in the basketball world knows Compton Magic and knows who you are. But we get some random people watching this, and so for people who don't know the impact you've had on the game, could you kind of give us some roundabout numbers of how many All-Americans you may have had, or how many guys you've sent to the pros, or how many scholarship dollars you've created over the course of the years, and any just roundabout numbers so people get a kind of grasp of the impact that you've had?
Well, obviously we've been doing it since '93, and I had my first professional player in the '90s with Jeff Trepanier and Tito Maddox. So you can imagine, and on that high school team in '97, we had 8 Division I players on our high school team. So, I mean, you can imagine the numbers that we put in college, which is a lot. I don't know that exact number. Just so I can, I'm older, I'm 51 now, so I kind of have early dementia. But I would say in the last 5 years, the one example I could give you is that in the 2017 draft, we had 4 kids in the draft, in that one draft.
Wow.
So TJ Leaf, Cameron Oliver, Jordan Bell, and Ike Enigbogu. So we had 4 kids in the 2017 draft. 2018 draft, we didn't have any. 2019, we had Jalen Hands. This year we'll have Onyeka. So that's 6 draft picks in 4 years. Next year we'll have Evan Mobley for sure, possibly his brother, possibly Timmy Allen. I mean, we could be at 10 draft picks, 10 guys getting drafted in 4 to 5 years. That's pretty. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's been some
a lot of teams that can say that.
No, like Atlanta Celtics had a team where they had Josh, and then they had Dwight Howard.
Yep.
And the point guard, they went to the Lakers. Yep. They had a team like that that had a lot of kids. But we have 3 guys in the NBA off our 2017 team.
Man, that's crazy.
I mean, like, our current run is going to be tough. It's going to be real tough.
Definitely. As you're putting together a team like that, I see the pressure of, it seems like a lot of teams lose their sponsorships or whatever, oftentimes because they're not getting enough good ranked players, or they're not winning. And so as you're but you've been able to do both. You've been able to get top 25 kids and still win. So how do you go about managing that? Is it more important for you to get the ranked players, so even if you lose, you still got there, or do you value winning, or how do you mesh that to be successful?
No, but remember, like, most of the teams that I've been telling you about are kids we've had before they were ranked.
True.
I'm not like the thing is, like, I haven't really, I can't even think of a ranked kid that we recruited later. So what I'm saying to you is, our kids we either had in the 8th grade, 9th grade, they weren't even ranked yet. Wow. They might have been good, but I'm saying, like, that's part of the machine, right? So it's like, I can't really even say, like, how, like, this year when Jalen Green went to Why Not, right? He's the number 1 player, number 2 player, number 1, number 2 player in the country, and they got him. But we haven't done that. Yeah. We haven't picked up. We haven't recruited. Like, we usually already have those guys embedded in our program, so we haven't really recruited those type of kids. Even for us, like, I've turned down 2 top 10 players the last 2 years for playing for us, because it just didn't make sense for the guys that I already had, and those guys already had sweat equity with us, and I wasn't going to take away shots. So just like when the parent called me, he's like, "Hey, Tope, come on, let's do it." I'm like, "Can't do it, man. This other guy who's in your spot, I can't take shots away from those guys. They've earned them. They've been with us."
Bro, I know there's some AU teams out there right now, like, man, you turning down top 10 guys, but you're right. If you got a guy who's been with you for years and they play the same position, why would you do that to that guy that's been loyal to you? So,
or how about even your Evan Mobleys? And, like, I've had Evan since the 6th grade. like Evan. Listen, people don't understand Evan. When Evan was in the 6th grade, 7th grade, he wasn't that tall, so he was only like 6'3". He was a guard. He was his best thing. He used to shoot the ball. Like, people didn't know he was going to grow to 7 feet. Like, he wasn't ranked when he was in the 9th grade. He wasn't ranked either. So I'm saying, like those kids, like, people were like Evan and Isaiah, both of them. Everyone knew they were good. But they still weren't the upper tier guys. They were like the secondary guys when they came into high school.
Yeah,
I just saw something different. I knew they were going to be top dudes. They both were McDonald's All-Americans at the end of the day. I knew that.
Yeah.
I saw that when they were in middle school.
Wow.
No one else did. Everyone else, the other kids were good. They knew they were going to be really good. They didn't know they were going to be as good. But then Evan grows to 7 feet, and people still haven't even seen Evan's package. Like Evan used to be a guard. He hasn't really used it yet because he grew so fast. But it will all come together when he gets to the NBA, and it all comes together, and they work on all that stuff. And it's going to be crazy. It's going to be Giannis / KG / Durant. It's going to be a whole mixture of all those dudes because he's bouncy, he can shoot, all that.
That sounds like AD. Like used to be a guard and then sprouted up to 7 feet and then has all that extra skill.
Yeah, with bounce. He's quick off the floor, bro. Quick.
Yeah.
Bounce.
Right. I can't wait to see him in the league, man.
When they get him all full time in there and just working with him and lifting and all that.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Scary, bro.
Can't wait to see it, man. One of the things you talked about separating yourself is staying in touch with the guys. Another thing, and we talked about this off the record on our last call, is one of the ways I've seen you separate yourself is in terms of community service. And in the last 6 or 7 years, I see you on social media giving back, running events in Compton, in Cali. And so, why did you start making that shift to be so intentional about doing that? And then the second part I wanted to ask is, have you seen that affect the culture of your team, and how's that affected your image locally, or even that, but especially locally in the community?
Absolutely, man. I want to say it was 5 to 6 years ago, we had done really well, and we knew we were doing really good in we knew we were doing good things in basketball. And I just sat back and said, if I want to leave a legacy, I got to affect more people. How can we do that? And I think we made a conscious change to become, instead of being a basketball team that does a little bit of community service, we wanted to become a community organization that plays basketball. So we made a major shift 6 years ago. And what we do is, as soon as we're done in August, we start in September, and all the way from September to December, we just have all these community plays, and we do so much in the community. Like I can't even explain to you all the different things, because some of the things, like when you start doing community work, it just gets contagious. Like it just gets like, you get in there and you find one thing, and then you find this other thing that you like, and you just start moving. Like, because we're not doing your average community work. We're doing like different things that are like, pressure points in our community. So I get in there and do things that I think affect us, that we can affect people, that affect our people that are in our kind of our wheelhouse. And we've just got creative with the community service, man. And it's just been it's great for our kids too, because hopefully our kids that make it, when they do make it, they'll remember how it felt to do that, because we make them all come back to Compton, and we have a little feed the homeless thing there, and we do diaper drives, and we do we have a create a legacy program in Compton with the elementary schools, and we do all kind of stuff. I think that's another part that's really separated us. I mean, another part that separates us is that. And some people will say, hey, you guys are doing all that, and you're putting it on social media. I go, yeah. So what'll happen is you're either going to hate on us and do something about it, or like it and do something about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's either one of the two. I mean, you're going to do one of the two. So I think we've started a trend, because a lot of AAU teams are starting to work.
Yep. No, 100%.
AAU teams are starting to work.
100%. I think there's two things to that, man. Is that, number one, not everybody's going to make it to the NBA, right? And so
nobody's going to make it to the NBA.
Well, you got a few. You obviously do. But I will say, I know what you're saying.
Less than 1%. So.
I know what you're saying. So, but like a lot of guys, what they fail to realize is this puts stuff on their resume, right? When you're going to go for a job, you get a job, and they say, when you put down volunteer experience, that means a lot for employers. That shows you think outside of yourself. So you're giving them resume skills, and on top of that, giving back to the community. And so, man, we talked about this. It's like LeBron has set the stage higher for athletes now. It used to be, I can just play. Now it's like, I can play, and I got to do something to give back. And so if you don't do it, and the best player in the game is doing it, it sets the bar higher, what you're doing.
He went and set the bar real high. When he created that school,
exactly,
that was different.
But yeah, man, y'all doing the same thing in terms of community service, man. So big props to you on that. A couple years ago, I was coaching AAU, and we had a lock-in. All my guys spent the night at the YMCA, and we did some events, and we watched a movie, and the movie we watched was At All Costs. So what was it like to have a lead role in a movie like that, man? What was that experience like?
It was crazy because, they filmed that movie really in 2011. So that movie was old, even though it came out in 2016, because what happened was they followed us around for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
It was crazy. And when they got through filming, it was like the movie did, and Hollywood, man, is crazy. Like sometimes it's depending on who's packaging it, who's trying to produce it, who's selling it. There's all these different things that happen in Hollywood. And so, ours got put on the shelf.
Yeah.
And so like they did all that work, got a finished product, and they shelved it. And then we got a call like 2 years later, and Netflix picked it up.
Yeah.
And I think it did really well on Netflix. When Netflix picked it up, it did really well. And but that movie, when they picked it up, I don't know if you remember. So it was the Compton Magic was the team, Parker Cartwright and Gabe York were the two players.
Yep.
And by the time the movie came out, like Gabe was almost out of school. He was out of school. So
Yep.
the movie came out. The movie was actually outdated because Jordan Bell was in that, and he was already in the NBA damn near.
Yep.
But yeah, it was an awesome experience, man. Like it just shows, like, see, at the time we were making a surge back then because in 2010 we were really good when we had Jahi Carson and Gabe York and Ski Booker, Norvell Pell, who plays for the 76ers now. And we were solid back then. We had a very good team back then. We were a top 3 team in the country then. And I think that they wanted to find the AAU team, obviously, that was on the rise, and we were on the rise back then, and that's why they picked us to be in the show.
Yeah.
But it was an awesome opportunity. I think it made awareness of what, I think a lot of people think that AAU is just fun and games, man. And I think he did a really good job. Mike Nichol was the director, and he did a really good job of showing, like, most AAU coaches, regardless of it's Compton Magic or regardless if it's an independent team or whoever else, most of them are putting their own money in. Most of them ain't making no money. Most of them are spending a ton of time with other people's kids.
Yep.
I mean, like, you think these trips are glamorous. You see the college coaches when we're in the laundry room at 2 a.m. washing dirty uniforms. I mean, like when you go on an AAU trip, like washing the uniforms is like, like that's like half the battle every night, like washing the damn uniforms. Like
you finish with a late game and you got an 8 o'clock game in the morning. Somebody's got to step and wash them uniforms.
Man, usually like we just recently got team moms. Like before we were washing them ourselves. So it's like, we're watching four teams' uniforms at midnight every night. So people think that he did a great job, man, of really reenacting, a lot of the grit and the grind of what it takes to get these kids from point A to point Z, from being a 9th grade high school kid to receiving that scholarship, which is the ultimate goal for most AAU teams. Yeah. It should be the goal. And then once you start to evolve, then you can start having bigger goals where you get to college and you support them, where you try to get them to the NBA.
Yep.
For me, like I've been doing it so long, it's like, my kid this year who's going to the draft on Onyeka, which is special for me because we've taken him from point A to point Z, right? We've taken him all the way, walked him into to USC. Now, 2 months ago, we sat down with all the agents and the financial guys. Have his team situated for his next part of his journey.
Yeah.
So, like that's awesome when you have the bandwidth to be able to take a kid who's a child in the 8th grade, walk them all the way through to being a top 10 pick.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. They did a great job of representing you and your program and showing the intricacies of AAU basketball. So before we close up, man, we talked about you being on social media and some of the things you're doing, the success you've had. So if anybody's watching and want to learn more about you, let them know how they can follow you, whether it's your website, social media platforms. How can we follow Etop and Compton Magic?
Yeah, we're on Instagram and we're on Twitter and we're active in both. And we're on Facebook. We're on all the social media platforms. Super active. Just on Compton Magic. Compton Magic is the Instagram and Compton_Magic is the Twitter. We try to tell stories. I mean, like for me, I do all the social media myself from my phone. I do all the social media. So we use social media to tell stories. We're trying to constantly tell our story.
Yeah.
The more we tell our story, obviously the more opportunity we have to get resources, the more resources, the more kids we can help, the more people we can help, the more community work we can do. So, yeah, follow us.
Yeah,
and we'll get some stories.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you making the time, man. And like I said, big props to you, not only what you've been doing on the court, but like I said, I've been following the social media and seeing what you've been doing back in the community as well. So, man, keep investing in them kids like that. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Proud of you. And thank you for coming on, man.
Anytime.
Thank you, Etop, for coming on, spending some time and sharing that knowledge with us today. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to see your team get back on the court. As always, it's a high-level program, and good luck to you moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to bring you some of the best basketball minds in the game, whether they're Division I coaches, whether they're AAU guys, no matter what it is. We're going to continue to bring you the knowledge and the details that it takes to be great, because you know what? That's right. Greatness is in the details, guys. Continue to like, subscribe, and share. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week. God bless you guys. Peace.